What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode here, the Side Guys Football Forum. I'm one of your co-hosts on the side, joined as always by my good friend, my good buddy, the other half of the Side Guys, Tad the Side. And Tad, rough weekend for our NFL teams. That Super Bowl rematch did not go in.
Mine won at least.
That is true. Your team, the Colts, did end up getting a win, but I mean, yeah, the Anthony Richardson did not seem to make any sort of improvements. It was pretty rough there. And yeah, the Niners just looked absolutely horrendous in that Super Bowl rematch against the Kansas City Chiefs. I want to get your take on this one. I don't know if you saw the highlight. I'd be shocked if you didn't see the highlight. But there was that play where Patrick Mahomes was running towards the sideline and he faked like he was going out of bounds, and then he stayed in bounds to keep going. So pretty much he was able to take advantage of the defender not wanting to hit him out of bounds to then infer a penalty. A lot of people are comparing it to Kenny Pickett's.
I was just about to say he pulled a Kenny Pickett. Yeah,
the fake slide. And so it's like a lot of people are saying like he sort of pulled that thing. So it's like, what do you think about that move? Do you think that was a smart move, or do you think that was unfair? Or I mean, just like, yeah, how did you sort of view that whole scene?
I mean, it's a little cheap because, yeah, obviously, like if if a quarterback runs 2 yards out of bounds, then gets hit, they're like unnecessary roughness.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, yeah, that's just how the game. I wrote a column. It's actually funny. I wrote about a column about this where it's just like, yeah, the game's getting softer, and unfortunately, you just gotta live with it because that's just the way the game's moving. And woo, boy, did I get a lot of hate mail for that. Second only to when I wrote about the Penn State scandal, which really even wasn't about the Penn State scandal, but that's a whole other thing. If you like to hear that story, direct message us on Instagram. Sources are right below because that's a hilarious story. Someone threatened to shoot me with a shotgun. But point being is, it's an unfortunate outcome, or it's unfortunate coincidence is not the word I'm looking for, but was it cheap? Yes. Was it smart by Mahomes? Also, yes. That's my stance on it.
No, that's fair. That's fair. He ended up getting his career-long run on that play. It was 33 yards. So, I mean, that just sort of speaks to the fact that it really put them in a prime position to end up getting another touchdown and taking a pretty commanding lead in that game.
I'm surprised he wasn't throwing his helmet, yelling at the refs. Huh? It's almost like when things work in his fortune.
I will say, though, Tad, he took advantage of former TCU linebacker D. Witters on that play, and that's how he was able to get that long run.
We're not talking about that.
I had to bring it up because you were like, it was cheap, but it was sort of fair. So I was like, he took advantage of D. Witters. So say what you want there.
I hate you.
But yeah, it was a very, injury-filled weekend. We got some key players that went down during week 7, which we're going to cover here at the top of the episode. But guys, before we get into all of our injuries and our waiver wire picks here for week 8, we definitely have to get a shout out to our great sponsors at Underdog Fantasy, because, I mean, we have ourselves a World Series as well now. We have the Los Angeles Dodgers taking on the New York Yankees. A lot of people were... The MLB was pulling for this series for sure because, Tad, I don't know if you know, but last year between the Rangers and the Diamondbacks, it was the lowest TV ratings for World Series in history.
Don't do my Rangers dirty like that.
And so, yeah, I think we may get the opposite this year. We may get the opposite this year. We may get one of the more highest viewing World Series in some time for sure.
Aaron Judge over under 3 home runs in the series.
If you said 3.5, I'd probably say under. If you're going to give me the 3.5 over, I'm probably going to say, yeah, it's not going to happen.
Oh, I'm taking the over 3.5.
Really? Okay. I have a feeling he's going to choke when the biggest time.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so you got the World Series you can be betting on. The WNBA finals are over now. The New York Liberty has won their first ever title in history. But I mean, we got the NBA season tipping off this week, so you can start betting on that. Obviously, still got a full slate of NFL action. You got the college football action as well. So, guys, whatever you're comfortable betting in, Underdog Fantasy has you covered. So, guys, get into the action with our promo code DESAI, DESAI. You can double up on your initial deposit of $10 or more, up to $500, courtesy of a good friends at Underdog Fantasy. So, if you were to bet that max amount, $500, using our promo code DESAI, you can get up to $1,000 on their betting platform. You can use the website, very easy to use, very user-friendly there. The apps are also very easy to use, both on Apple devices and Android devices. So guys, tons of things you can be betting on, lots of potential money you could be winning, guys. To get into the action with our good friends at Underdog Fantasy, that promo code, once again, is DESAI, DESAI. Double up on your initial deposit of $10 or more, up to $500, courtesy of our good friends at Underdog Fantasy. So, Tad, like we sort of brought up here at the beginning of the episode, we got some major injuries to discuss as we get to the NFL action here in Week 7. We got 3 quarterbacks on the list, technically 4 quarterbacks actually on this list, because 2 of them came from the same team in the same game. So, I mean, yeah, that's sort of the interesting here. But yeah, the big one here is Deshaun Watson, quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. He left the game in the first half with an apparent leg injury. Non-contact play replay show, especially like if you saw it on Twitter, they didn't show like any additional replays on the NFL broadcast out of respect to the player and for those of us that are squeamish with injuries. But yeah, it looked very much like Aaron Rodgers' injury from last year, where it's like you see a little bit of a rupture in that calf area, and it was determined afterwards that he has ruptured his Achilles. He will no longer play for the 2025 season. Tad, what's your take on this? Where I tried to watch some videos. I couldn't really tell, but there's a lot of people saying, including some of the Cleveland Browns players, saying that Cleveland fans were cheering when Deshaun Watson left the game. And I know it's a very strong fan base there for the Browns and Cleveland sports, but I mean, when a player gets injured, even, a less than reputable character in Deshaun Watson, that is not something that I want to see from fans of any sport doing. So, I mean, just what's your take on that real quick?
Yeah, I'm going to keep this short.
Okay.
That sucks. I'm sure that hurt. And yeah, I hope someone can massage it back to health.
Oh God.
Oh, okay. If we really want to do this, then let's do this. Normally, yes. If he was a normal, quote unquote normal, and I'll define that in a bit, player who got hurt and was just not playing well up until that point, as Deshaun Watson has not been playing well, and they were cheering just because it's like, finally he's out, then yeah, that'd be a really shitty thing to do. But let's be honest, assuming the allegations of which he's received over a dozen are true, he's a shitty person. So no, I didn't feel that bad. And I'm not saying I'm glad he's hurt, but I definitely don't feel bad he's hurt. Like, I wasn't like, I didn't see, because you're right, that video is brutal. He's in the shotgun, he takes a step back, and you can literally, it's kind of the same thing as Aaron Rodgers thing, is you can see that, snap of the tendon, and you're just like, damn. And that was my exact reaction. I was like, oh no. I wasn't like, yes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, afterwards, like when he's getting carted off the field and he's crying, I'm just like, yeah. Okay. So, you know what? Sorry, dude. Don't be a shitty person. And I won't, again, I'm not cheering for him to get hurt, but then I'll actually feel bad when you get hurt. So, no, should you actually cheer while you're in the stadium while he's getting carted off? Maybe not. Don't kick him while he's down. But like at the same time, if people aren't that upset to see him go, I can't really blame them.
I guess I can understand that, but I guess, yeah, still, it's hard to see anybody suffering injury like that, and then for people to cheer about it.
And like I said, and that's fair. And like I say, it's just it's all the stuff off the field. Because if it was just an underperforming player on the field, and they were like, "Yes, he's gone, we did it," like that would feel wrong. But it's just the fact that like I don't think he's a very good person, so therefore he can go fuck himself.
Fair. And say what you want about Jameis Winston and some of his pregame and postgame speeches and things like that, but he actually had a very nice response to the critical response that, people were sort of giving Deshaun Watson after the injury. So yeah, if you have, 2 minutes of time, like he has a very good postgame, response to everything that was sort of happening there. But yeah, in replace of Deshaun Watson, we did see Dorian Thompson-Robinson come into the game and replace Deshaun Watson. But like I said, this is the same team, another injury at the quarterback position. He ended up leaving the game with an injury of his own. He injured a finger on his throwing hand, and he will need to wait to see whether he can be able to play in week 8 in this coming week here. So we did see Jameis Winston play towards the final handful of minutes in that game there. I believe he did. Yeah, he did throw a touchdown in that game. So it's like, yeah, we'll have to wait and see whether it's going to be Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Maybe we'll see Jameis Winston, but with Deshaun Watson, being done for the year now, like, does that give you optimism for the Browns offense now going forward with either DTR or Jameis Winston? So it's like, does this, increase any sort of value for David Njoku, Jerry Jeudy? Nick Chubb scored a touchdown in his return, so we got a lot of cheers for that. So it's like,
it took about 4 tries, but they got there.
It doesn't matter. He was still able to sort of bounce back there. So I mean, just like, Tad, really quick, how do you feel about the Brown situation going forward now without Deshaun Watson and possibly either DTR or James Winston now?
Better.
Okay.
And yeah, again, this isn't why I was happy to see Deshaun Watson leave. Not that I was happy to see him leave, but yeah, I think this offense under DTR and definitely under Jameis Winston looked a lot better. I know that for a fact because I just recently traded David Njoku off my team. And I just kind of like threw him at the other guy. I was like, ha, sucker. And then I got Christian Kirk in return, and Christian Kirk scored me 2 points, and David Njoku scored something like 15 points. I was like, damn it. Damn it. And so I think that just goes to show that Deshaun Watson was the problem with this offense. He was kind of, stymieing this offense. And also on top of everything else is, as you said, with 2 quarterbacks getting hurt, clearly the problem is the offensive line with this team. But the offensive line is close to getting healthier. So the more healthy this offensive line gets, the better whoever is their quarterback gets. And I'm still a big believer in this Browns coaching staff. And I'm not calling it quits on the Browns yet. I think they are actually a very hot candidate. If you ask me, like, which team do you think is, a big candidate for a second half season, kind of bounce back? I think the Browns are pretty high on that list, if not number 1.
I think the microscope gets fully put under Kevin Stefanski now, because now with Deshaun Watson out and sort of him being sort of like a blame that
he's
you
lost
sort of
all
add to the offense.
Yes,
it's like, if he could sort of save the team, then it's like, yeah, that will save his job for sure. But just really quick, Tad, yes or no, with Deshaun Watson getting hurt, will this cost Kevin Stefanski his job this year?
No, because I think, like I said, Deshaun Watson has been such a scapegoat at this point. Just like, well, what do you expect me to do?
Yeah.
I think he holds on for one more year, but also wouldn't surprise me if the Browns pull a Saleh next year and he's gone by like week 3.
Could happen. All right, let's get to another quarterback here for another team here. We got Aiden O'Connell of the Las Vegas Raiders. He suffered an injury on his throwing hand in the first quarter, did not return in that game. He is now going to be put on. It has been confirmed he's going to be put on injured reserve, and he'll miss the next 4 weeks with a fractured thumb. So the Raiders will be going back to Gardner Minshew as their starting quarterback for the time being. Kind of similar to the Browns, though. It's just like, I don't have a lot of optimism with this offense outside of Brock Bowers. Like, I mean, Trey Tucker, Jacoby Myers. I mean, those are the guys at the receiver position. But even the running game is just, it's hard to really depend on anybody in this offense, regardless of who's playing quarterback. So, I mean, just like, whether it's Gardner Minshew, whether it's AOC, it really just doesn't matter to me. It's just, it's very limited as far as the passing offense outside of Brock Bowers. I mean, do you agree? Do you disagree?
I don't care.
Okay.
It's the Raiders. I don't care. I will say this, though, as someone, and long story, but as someone who accidentally slammed their thumb into a car door and fractured it almost in half, by the way. The thumb is the worst finger break. So, Aiden O'Connell, I'm very sorry because you're about to put up with a very frustrating next couple of weeks. I'm telling you, try going like using like just your 4 fingers tonight as you're listening to this. And trust me, it's not as easy as you think. Like, breaking your thumb is a real pain in the ass. So Aiden O'Connell has my sympathy. Deshaun Watson does not, but Aiden O'Connell, you got my sympathy because, yeah, that sucks.
All right. Let's get to a higher marquee quarterback here. Sort of a lot of people's been saving grace for the fantasy teams, like just drafting this guy either late or maybe even taking a risk of drafting him early. But Jayden Daniels, quarterback of the Washington Commanders, suffered an injury. So he seemed to injure his ribs on the very first drive of the game for the Commanders against the Carolina Panthers. He left the game. He was checked in the blue medical tent and then was later confirmed to be dealing with a rib injury. He did not return in that game. He did come back to the sidelines and he was watching the game from the sidelines, but he did not suit up again for the rest of that game. Daniels was replaced by the veteran Marcus Mariota, and he actually played pretty well in a replacement capacity. He went 18 for 23, 205 passing yards. He threw 2 touchdowns, and he also rushed for 34 yards. This all totaled Tad to 19.6 fantasy points. So he was very close to 20 fantasy points in a replacement capacity. Head coach Dan Quinn came out later today, and he was very non-committal as far as his response about Jayden Daniels. He said that, it's something that they're going to be monitoring all week long, but there's no determination yet of whether he's going to miss significant amount of time, whether he's going to miss a week, whether he's not going to miss any time at all. So that is the situation to monitor all week long. But Tad, I'm pretty sure you're watching this game on Red Zone. What did you think about Marcus Mariota? And in case Jayden Daniels has to miss any time, do you think that's a pretty suitable replacement as far as like a plug and play sort of option?
I think it depends on the opponent because we have to focus on who. I mean, once again, who did they play this past weekend?
I can look that up for you.
Carolina.
Right now.
I can tell you right now, Carolina Panthers. So that's I said last weekend, not next weekend.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about this coming week.
Okay, no. I meant last weekend because I think that's part of the reason that Mariota looks so good is because
this is the interesting thing. They'll be playing the Chicago Bears this coming week, so
I don't like that.
Yeah, I would agree with you there.
I mean, they were talking on the broadcast too. Like the Panthers are like kind of stitching together, like Frankensteining their own defense because they've gone through like a dozen injuries. Which, by the way, I did not know because I don't pay any attention to the Panthers other than the fact they suck. But point being is, I think that Mariota is a matchup-based quarterback. I think given the right matchup, something to look at, but I would not count on him from a week-to-week basis. Here's what worries me about Jayden Daniels moving forward is, have you ever broken a rib before?
Nope.
Okay. I don't know why all of a sudden we're going over my injury history this episode, but I have. I've broken 2 ribs in my life. It hurts.
If I was a fantasy football player, he'd have that Q next to him
every
single day.
No, not every single day. I would have the D next to my name the entire time. But no, broken ribs hurt, man. Like every time you breathe, it hurts. Like I was sitting on my bed both times with like a towel or not towel, but like padding against my ribs every time. Like hold it there so you can breathe. You're like, okay, ow, ow, ow. So like that really worries me with football moving forward. Of like even when you are quote unquote better, that first hit you take back there, that pain, I have to imagine that pain returns right back to where it was. So the consistency of Jayden Daniels' availability is something I am very worried about moving forward.
Yeah, you wonder whether this could possibly limit his rushing ability too, just whether he's going to be as aggressive. That could be a potential thing. But if they decide to play him, I'm pretty sure they're going to put like, an extra like flak jacket or padding there to make sure that's like it doesn't going to.
If I'm the Commanders, I'm putting him in Kevlar. Like that's what I'm doing.
So yeah, we'll see exactly what the situation is with Jayden Daniels going forward. But yeah, as of right now, Dan Quinn has non-committal about whether he's going to play this week or how much time he's going to miss. But yeah, if you're thinking about Marcus Mariota versus Chicago Bears, I'd probably think against it because that is not a matchup I want to take advantage of right now.
We'll have a good pick for you in a bit.
Last quarterback that we want to get to here is Tyler Huntley, because this is an interesting situation here, Tad. So Tyler Huntley of the Miami Dolphins, he left the game in the 3rd quarter with an injury to his shoulder on his throwing arm there. He was replaced in the game by backup Tim Boyle, who could be in line to start in week 8 against the Arizona Cardinals. Tad, if you had to guess, how many passing yards do you think both quarterbacks combined for in that game in week 7 against your Indianapolis Colts?
I don't fucking know. I don't care. 175, 300. I don't know. That whole game was just a train wreck.
If you said 175, I'd say lower.
Really?
Yeah.
And they still played it that close.
They totaled for 149.
God, I hate
yards between both quarterbacks. But I think the interesting here, because Tad, if Tim Boyle
we should have drafted Quinyon Mitchell. I'm just saying it.
If the Miami Dolphins have to go to Tim Boyle here in week 8 against the Arizona Cardinals, like I said, that just doesn't give me any sort of like, I don't have any sort of assurance that the firepower is going to return. But the interesting thing here, that's why I wanted to bring up the situation, is that Tua Tagovailoa is eligible to come off the IR this coming week. And so he has confirmed that's like, as long as like doctors and everybody says that he's okay to play, then he is willing to play. I don't know whether the Dolphins are going to put him in a situation where it's like, okay, if you're healthy, we're going to play you, like with all the concussions that he suffered. He has said that he doesn't want to wear the Guardian cap as a personal
I did just
thing,
see that
so
before
it's like,
we start recording.
that's a very interesting situation there. But just, yeah, we could see Tua Tagovailoa back to this lineup, but just like, it is a very fluid situation in Miami as far as who their quarterback is going to be against the Arizona Cardinals. But just like, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Like, I mean, Tad, if Tua were to start, like, would you have confidence in him as a starting fantasy quarterback for you?
As a starting fantasy quarterback, no.
Okay.
Because he was already a little inconsistent in that before he started. Now, Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, by the way, who was a sit last week. And
Yeah.
God, I told you guys. I told you
Yeah.
to sit him. I told you to do it, but no one listens to me. Those two I have increased confidence in. But in terms of, well, especially because I almost, for this episode, spoiler alert, I didn't, but I almost took Jonnu Smith as my tight end to pick up until I read the news that Tua could be coming back. And that's what backed me off of Jonnu Smith, because Tua doesn't really like throwing the tight ends all that much. So that's enough fantasy significance where I think this is, of all the quarterback situations I'm monitoring this week, this would be the one that I'm monitoring, which I know I cannot say that correctly. The closest. Monitoring. Why do I feel like I'm saying that weird? Monitoring.
Yeah.
Monitoring. I feel like I'm like whatever.
Yeah, you're mumbling it all together. It's weird.
Monitoring. I feel like a robot saying that. Monitoring.
Yeah. But if we don't see Tua, like, I mean, Tad, this sort of maybe sort of a little bit of a preview of the game plan going into week 8 against the Arizona Cardinals. The Dolphins ran the ball 40 times against your Colts this
does not
weekend,
shock me.
So
did not shock me.
I have a feeling they'll lean more on the running game for sure.
Yet Raheem Mostert only had 3.5 points. Damn it.
All right, Tad, let's jump off the quarterbacks here. Let's get to the wide receivers. Actually,
oh, dear God. We're not even through all the injuries.
We're not all through the injuries. We have a couple more injuries to get to. So we got some wide receivers that we need to discuss here. So Juju Smith-Schuster of the Kansas City Chiefs. So heading into this week 7 game against San Francisco 49ers.
What did you do?
He was already dealing with a hamstring injury, but early in the game, he seemed to re-aggravate the injury by running an in-breaking route. He limped off the field, and he did not return in the rest of that game. This is just the Chiefs without another piece in that passing offense now, because, I mean, they still found a way to win. So, I mean, the Chiefs are still finding a way to win, but just they're losing pieces in that passing offense because, in Sunday's game, the passing offense was led by backup tight end Noah Gray. He had 4 receptions for 66 yards. Mecole Hardman probably saw the most action at the receiver position. He had 2 rushes, though, for 38 yards and 1 reception for 17 yards. They leaned heavily on the ground game. Kareem Hunt had 22 rushes for 78 yards, and he scored twice. But, I mean, Tad, Patrick Mahomes just hasn't been playing all that well for fantasy purposes either. So it's like now with another piece gone in this passing offense, like, I mean, how are you viewing Patrick Mahomes as a fantasy piece? Like, I mean, it's sort of hard to start him this week. I going forward, I think, right?
It's weird to say, but Patrick Mahomes going to Mariota territory, matchup-based quarterback.
I think so.
Depends on who they play. If they play the Raiders, love them. If they play the Broncos, I don't love them. I think, like, because I mean, you and I were talking about this the other week of like Patrick Surtain does a very good job of shutting down the number 1 receiver on the, whatever team they play. That's why you called was it Garrett Wilson? You called Garrett Wilson getting shut down?
I believe I did. Yeah.
It was. I mean, he was the number 1 receiver on the Chiefs, and whoever it is, it's probably going down that week.
Yeah,
so it's just like, it depends very much on the matchup base. And honest, I like Kareem Hunt moving forward until Clyde Edwards-Helaire comes back. And then we got some discussions to have of like how that's going to look. But Kareem Hunt's really the only Chief offensive player I trust right now.
Yeah, no, it's tough to trust this passing offense, I think, for sure. Just the way that their offense is just been
looking too streaky.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's going to be hard to trust a lot of Chiefs passing offense players. That includes Travis Kelce. Like, he was held in check.
Oh, I don't trust him whatsoever.
The defense is
Travis Kelce. I dropped. I mean, these legendary. I think they've earned that moniker of legendary. I dropped Mark Andrews. Speaking of another legendary tight end, I dropped him weeks ago.
Yeah.
Like, these legendary tight ends have just like lost. I don't know what's going on, but this season they've just lost their fantasy status.
Yeah. Let's get to another receiver here, Tad. Let's talk about DK Metcalf. So Metcalf torched the Falcons in this game. We had over the weekend. He had 4 receptions, 99 yards. He scored a touchdown, but yeah, he injured his knee.
Smith-Njigba's ass. I don't know if you saw that play. Was it Smith?
But
Who threw that pass? Did you see that?
Yeah, I did.
It's a terrible pass.
Metcalf injured his knee in the 3rd quarter, though, and he had to be carted back to the locker room. He did return back to the sideline, but he did not return in the game. Mike McDonald in a press conference today said that the injury is not major, but we have yet to hear about a major word as far as whether he's going to be able to play. I think, Tad, you mentioned that he's going to be considered week to week now going forward. So basically, that's what it tells me, that he's probably not going to play this week. I think he'll probably be able to go the following week if possible, but they do play against the Buffalo Bills. And so, yeah, that could be a significant miss from their passing offense in case he's not able to go. But yeah, when everybody says week to week, that sort of signifies to me that you're missing at least 1 week. That pretty much tells me that for sure. So yeah, DK Metcalf possibly may not play this week, but nothing has been confirmed yet. And then, Tad, I want to close out with another injury here. This one's a little bit more significant. Brandon Aiyuk of the San Francisco 49ers.
A little bit more significant.
I think so. So right before the end of the first half, Aiyuk took a big hit and was feared to suffer an ACL injury. That was the words out of Kyle Shanahan. But as of reports today, we do have confirmation that is both an ACL and MCL injury. So his 2024 season is done now. He is shut down. He'll be starting to his recovery back for 2025.
Hopefully he can start next season. We don't even know if he can start next season.
That is the interesting thing, Tad, because I mean, yeah, with all the contract holdout stuff that he is suffering not suffering, but it was like what the whole team and the player were going through, that sort of hindered his practice time. And it's like he looked rusty to start the season, and he overall was just not a guy that you could trust for fantasy purposes, and also for the Niners too. Like, there's a very critical drop that Brock Purdy laid it on a silver platter for him. It was in his hands and he dropped it. It just looked like there was just something off with him. And then, yeah, unfortunately, he suffered the injury. And so, yeah, we'll see whether he could bounce back for 2025. Even though it didn't look it, he was leading the team in targets, and he was also second on the team in receptions. But like I said, just based on the level of play, it just didn't seem like he would be leaders in either of those categories. Deebo Samuel suffered from an illness, so he didn't play at all in that game as well. Juwan Jennings was dealing with a hip injury, so he didn't play in that game as well. So the Niners were rolling out the likes of Chris Conley, Ronnie Bell, and rookies Jacob Cowling and Ricky Pearsall, which Ricky Pearsall did get a catch in that game, and he got a standing ovation. I don't know if you saw that in Red Zone or not.
I did.
So that was very good for him. So yeah, we'll see exactly what this passing offense is going to look like going forward. Obviously, they have George Kittle as well, but just, yeah, with no Deebo, Jennings is obviously still nursing an injury here, but yeah, no Aiyuk as well. This is going to be very interesting to see, like, who Purdy will be looking in whoever's direction, especially with a big game coming up this week against the Dallas Cowboys, who are coming off a bye week. So yeah, very interesting situation here with the Niners passing offense. So how do you view all of that? Like, I mean, I think Jennings is obviously a pickup again.
I was just about to ask you about that. Is he scheduled back?
Well, I mean, once he's healthy, I think he's going to be a go-to.
But he's not going to be healthy this next week.
That's gonna wait and see sort of thing.
Wait and see. Okay. I think Juwan Jennings is a very interesting wait and see.
I think regardless though, Tad, is that, when people were dropping him because, like, Aiyuk was finally healthy, Deebo was healthy, and all these guys, it was like, okay, the Jennings, that one game he had against Los Angeles, was like, okay, that was a freak thing. It's not going to happen again. Now the all starters are back now. But now Aiyuk out for the rest of the season. It's like, go pick him back up. If he's available, if people dropped him, go pick him up, because, yeah, season long, he's definitely a guy who can help you out for sure.
He is an absolute priority on my waiver target, because I am an Aiyuk manager.
If you need a receiver, I would put him at the top of my waiver claim.
Is he available in the LAFB league? Do you know?
I can't speak for that. I unfortunately don't know.
You don't have him?
I don't think I have him.
Okay. We need to check that later.
Okay.
Yeah, no, like I said, I'm an Aiyuk manager, and I'm worried because I'm currently in last place, and my team's underperforming, and that's a massive loss. I don't trust anyone on this Niners offense outside Jordan Mason until further notice. Jordan Mason is the only guy I know that's going to get consistent volume, and that includes Brock Purdy, by the way. And I am also a Brock Purdy manager. He is saying I'm not dropping him, but he is staying the hell on my bench until I figure out what is going on with this offense. Because, and this just goes to show that, with basketball, I always question, I'm like, how good are head coaches really? Like, how much do they really play a factor? I always feel like it's more of like name brand and stuff like that. With the NFL, head coaches really matter, because if any other head coach faced this amount of, adversity, I'd be like, you're screwed. Season's done. Tough luck. You got the injury bug, which, by the way, can you guys get a better trainer or something? I am so sick of talking about the Niners and injury bug. But point being is, there's any coach I trust to find a bunch of no-name receivers. Ronnie Bell, I completely forgot about that guy until you just brought him up. But I actually really liked him out of the draft process. If there's any coach that can make the most of him, it's Shanahan. Like, that's why you pay him what you guys are paying him. So are you in a great position? No, but I'm not calling, the Grim Reaper on the 49ers quite yet.
Yeah, it's not that mean where it's like the Reaper's knocking on the
yes, yeah, exactly.
It's like the
not
trail
quite
of blood
there.
Or whatever.
It's yeah, exactly. Honestly, you guys are kind of the dog meme where everything's on fire. This is fine. Like,
everything's fine.
Yeah, that's kind of you guys are now. Honestly, things may end up being fine. Like, I'm not gonna call in the Niners yet.
Yeah,
give it another 2 or 3 weeks, I might.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how things will shape up over the next couple of weeks. But yeah, Aiyuk is done for the rest of the year. So if you're an Aiyuk manager, then it's like, yeah, go pick up Jennings if he's available. But otherwise, you'll need to sort of find some sort of other options. And so, Tad, speaking of that, let's definitely get into our week 8 waiver wire options
Jennings. Hold on, just give me 5 minutes.
All right, Tad, let's sort of get to all of our positions here. Let's start at the quarterback position. I believe you have a quarterback pickup for us here.
I do, because this guy actually way overperformed my expectations this past weekend. And I'm interested to hear your response to this, because I didn't think he'd be like eligible for this episode. With ESPN leaks. So I only check ESPN. What do you think the manage rate or the managed percentage is with Jared Goff? Like, what percent of teams do you think have Jared Goff on their roster?
Maybe like 50% around there.
See, I was thinking like 60, 70, a little closer to that. It's 48.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So let me read you some stats here, because this is insane. Over the last 3 games, Jared Goff has thrown for almost 900 yards. It might be a little over 900 yards. I was too lazy to do the math. 7 touchdowns. And do you want to guess how many picks? Over, under, I'll give you 2.5.
I think it's 0.
You are absolutely correct. He has not thrown a pick in the last 3 games that he's playing.
I think in week 6, he went a perfect like 19 for 19 or something like that. And he was like, he didn't miss a single receiver. So
no, exactly. And before people are like, well, that was his bye week. I'm talking the last 3 games he's played, not like
3
the
games,
last 3 weeks. And on top of everything, let's not forget that an injury that we didn't bring up because he did come back. Come back. David Montgomery is still playing, but not 100%. We don't quite know where that's at, but he was a pretty key part of their red zone offense. So I think that means that they're going to lean more heavily on the passing game in the red zone, which means more points for you as a fantasy manager of Jared Goff. So if you're in that 52%, I did that math right?
Yeah. Good job.
Okay, thank God. Thank you. I had to triple check it. I wasn't entirely sure, but 52%. 52%. Okay. If you are in that 52% of leagues where Jared Goff is still out there, I'm telling you, pick him up right now, especially because we just went through like 5 quarterbacks that just went out. He is a very, very valuable asset to pick up right now. And do you want to know why? They play the Titans next week.
Oh, that's a good matchup.
Titans are bad, man. Yeah. Those Titans are bad. They allowed 35 points to the Bills. They've allowed an average of something like 20 points a game. And that's, by the way, not 20 points to the opposing team. That's 20 fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. And Jared Goff is on a hot streak. Like, what more could you ask for? Like, this is like the ripest pickup you could ask for if you need a quarterback. So Jared Goff is absolutely at the top of my list if I need a quarterback.
Yeah, I think it sort of speaks to the fact that the Titans defense is just not that
They're
great.
So bad.
I don't know if
they might be the worst team in football.
I don't know if you saw that viral play of Keon Coleman telling Amari Cooper what the play is because of the alerts or whatever.
Great.
So it's like that was against the Titans. So it's like only the Titans defense can allow Amari Cooper to just run whatever route he wants to and then still score a touchdown on the play. So I mean, that sort of speaks to the fact that this is a prime matchup for Jared Goff to sort of take advantage of a pretty, weak Titans secondary and Titans defense overall. So
yeah. I dare one of our non-Titans fans, because I know Titans fans are going to be like, well, this guy. Anyone who's not a Titans fan, name a single Titans defensive player not named Jeffrey Simmons. Can you?
Well, yeah, I brought this up on last week's podcast, but they traded for L'Jarius Sneed, and they also have Chidobe
Damn it!
Awuzie.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Also, I think Kenny Vaccaro, is he still there?
No way. That's long gone. Oh, jeez. Yeah, Kenny Vaccaro. Yeah,
how about that for throwback? Kenny Vaccaro, what college?
Hook 'em. Their number one team is gone now. Not anymore, based on that showing that they had over the weekend. All right, Dad, let me get to the running back position here. Now, this name, it may sort of shock you a little bit because the matchup this week is not all that great, but I think we're at the point in the season, Tad, where just like the waiver wire is starting to thin out, especially at the running back position. So it's like your pickings are kind of slim here. So I'm going to go with Alexander Mattison of the Las Vegas Raiders.
Look who's a turncoat all of a sudden.
Yeah, no, believe me, the Zamir White is looking like an epic fail as far as people
Benedict Arnold,
I see here. Yeah, like I mean, it has not been looking all that great. Zamir White has yet to rush for over 50 yards at all this season, and he has not scored a single touchdown all season long either. Madison, on the other hand, is leading the team in rushing attempts and has scored 3 touchdowns this season as well. Like I mentioned, it's really rough as far as if you need a running back. There's no bye weeks this week, so I mean, everybody is playing this week, but still, if you're dealing with some injuries and you just need a running back to play for you this week, then it's like he's a good option purely because he is getting the volume in this offense opposite, like I said, we sort of are having hesitancy with the passing offense. So it's like maybe they want to lean on the running game a little bit more. They are playing the Kansas City Chiefs this week, who have a very tough run defense. So it's not a good matchup this week. But as far as like overall for the entire season, Alexander Mattison gives you the most potential because he's going to get a lot of rushing attempts, which could then obviously lead to potentially, based on the streaming option that you have there, so matchup-based starts, he could potentially be a sneaky good start for you in a given week as a flex play potentially. But yeah, if you're asking me, like, where would I rank this guy? Like, would he ever be like a potential starter for me? It's like, that's a very iffy situation. It's very much a matchup based thing. But like I said, because he has sort of taken the stranglehold as being the leader in the backfield for the Raiders, that's the reason why I'm picking this guy up.
A couple things. First off, for our YouTube viewers who was like, why is Tab making faces? I can't believe it, but you were absolutely correct. There are no bye weeks this week.
Yeah, there are no bye weeks this week.
That's really fucking weird.
It's actually kind of surprising too, because we just had 2 teams come from London and they're coming back to play the States.
Like, that's why I was like, no, there had to be bye. Like, that has to be wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. So that's the thing. Also, on top of that, you are absolutely, I love the way you put this, is stranglehold on the run game. I'm sure you said this and I just wasn't listening while I was doing research, but do you list off the amount of carries he's had the last 3 weeks?
I did not.
Okay, so he went starting from week 1. So week 1, he had 5, then 4, then 3, then 5. Now, this is the last 3 weeks. 15, 14, 23.
Yeah.
That is a stranglehold if I've ever seen one. That's
exactly.
That's a good pickup. That is, where's my notepad?
You do this on a notepad?
Cap, drop the notepad. I'm a journalist. I'm old fashioned. Leave me alone.
Journalist.
I was a journalist.
When's the last time you wrote an article?
Moving on.
Exactly. Let's get to the receiver position, Dad. Who you got for me?
All right. This is my riskiest pick of the entire week. And man, is it risky, but I'm telling you, it's a very buy low, but I'm telling you, like, the rewards could pay off. Cedric Tillman of the
Cleveland Browns. So we just brought up earlier.
Cleveland Browns receiver. So, I mean, obviously with the departure of, as you pointed out before, Amari Cooper, who, by the way, what a debut in Buffalo. That was awesome. That was really cool to watch. Although the only thing is, Amari, your first touchdown in Buffalo, you got to jump in the stands, man. Don't just run off. But anyway, he is now out of Cleveland, which is good for him. So someone has to step up in his absence, right? Njoku obviously did that. Much to my chagrin. Should have just held on to him and just traded away TJ Hawkinson, but whatever. We're just going to talk about that later. Cedric Tillman seems to be the receiver that's going to step up in his absence. And before people are like, what the hell are you talking about? No, they have Jerry Jeudy. Let me read you off some stats. So this past week, Jerry Jeudy only had 1 catch on 5 targets, while Tillman had 8 catches for 82 yards on 12 targets. 12 targets is a ridiculous amount. And plus, you look back on how the Browns offense has been functioning the past couple of weeks. That's basically the way it's been going the entire season. Of Jerry Jeudy gets about 4, 5 targets, gets 2, 3 catches out of it, basically does nothing with it. And the other receiver, aka Amari Cooper, is the only, sometimes fantasy relevant receiver. So I think that truly is a sign that Cedric Tillman is going to be the guy that replaces Amari Cooper as, oh, we're going to you all the time now. I don't understand why Jerry Jeudy is a very good. This dude has had like the worst NFL luck of all time. I feel so bad for him. Get him on the Chiefs. Could you imagine Jerry Jeudy on the Chiefs? That'd be awesome. But point being is, I think that Cedric Tillman is going to get fed so many targets that he's going to stay somewhat fantasy relevant for you, especially if you're needy for a receiver. If, let's say, you're a fantasy or not fantasy, Brandon Aiyuk manager, not a bad guy. And let's say like you're a Brandon Aiyuk manager who's 5-1 or 6-0 at this point, or whatever the record is. You're not going to get the top receiver options. Cedric Tillman is a very interesting low-tier option not a lot of people are looking at, and that's why I'm going with him, is because I think he will turn out, especially if you're in a half PPR or full PPR, especially if you're in full PPR leagues. If you're in any of those type of formats, that's a very interesting option you can look at that will still, churn out some significant output for you. So, yes, it's risky. And look, if you're first on the waiver order, not saying go for Cedric Tillman. Don't do that. Don't do that. But this is more for the people on the later half of the waiver wire, order. I think that Cedric Tillman is a very interesting option to consider because this team's going to be needing it to pass it a lot. And Cedric Tillman, if last week is any indication, is going to get a lot of those targets.
Yeah, because you also have to think that, yes, Nick Chubb scored a touchdown in his debut, but it's like they're probably still going to be easing him into the offense. So they're not going to overload him with a ton of work. So it's
you could tell that touchdown was a definite, let's get the crowd involved thing. Exactly. Like it wasn't like a game plan thing.
No, it's like, let's get him a touchdown. Let's show that, he's on the mend back. And it's like, give us sort of feel good stories.
That's what I call a miracle moment of exactly.
A little bit. But yeah, I think the bigger thing that sort of gives me a little bit more optimism for Cedric Tillman over, like you said, a bigger name like Jerry Jeudy is that when the backup quarterbacks come in, during the practice week, who are they practicing with more? They're practicing with like the second and third teams more. And who are on the second and third teams? The second and third team receivers. So it's like, this is where Cedric Tillman probably has a lot more chemistry with Dorian Thompson-Robinson or Jameis Winston as opposed to a Jerry Jeudy, because Jerry Jeudy is practicing with Deshaun Watson at the time now. So obviously in this case, it's like, even on a short week, it's like maybe the long-term aspirations for Cedric Tillman may not be that high, but at least in the short term, in the interim, Cedric Tillman is a very good guy to add because, yeah, he has that already established chemistry with some of these backup quarterbacks. That's like, they know what, how the ball is thrown, what sort of they don't understand how the route breaks in certain ways. So it's just like, you got that instant rapport that's like, you could sort of trust them in the short term. So yeah, Cedric Tillman, I still agree, is a little bit of a risky pick, but I do sort of stand by the fact that's like, in the short term, he could be a potential, sneaky good ad off the waiver wire and could be a possible streaming option for you because, yeah, there are probably going to be situations where they're playing from behind and they're going to have to air it out quite a bit. And so, yeah, we could see double-digit targets for the next couple of weeks for Cedric Tillman. I could see that possibly happening for sure.
Cedric Tillman at what college?
That's actually a good question. I actually don't know if I
Yes! Yes!
Is it Tennessee?
Damn it!
Oh, I guessed that one. I totally guessed on that one.
It's your tight end pick. God damn it.
Oh, wait. It was the same draft of him and Jalen Hyatt, right?
Yes, it was.
Okay, yeah.
God damn it.
That is sounding so familiar now. Yeah, because I remember obviously everybody
We
talked
both
about
liked
Jalen
him
Hyatt,
coming
but
out of the process, and
yeah,
just whatever.
exactly. Wow,
Who's your tight
nice.
end?
I
You
like it. I
bastard.
like
No, I don't.
So I'm gonna go with a little bit of a risky pick here, but also honestly, I see the numbers that can sort of back up him being a more bigger piece of the offense going forward. It's not for a big team, but it's tight end Jatavion Sanders for the Carolina Panthers.
Who?
The rookie tight end out of Texas. I mean, Ted, this was a guy that I liked
Oh,
out of
I
the
forgot
process.
about him. He
This is a
was
guy
actually
that,
pretty solid.
obviously all the attention went to Brock Bowers, but it was like, who is going to be that guy who's going to be drafted after Brock Bowers?
No, I remember liking
And
him a lot.
watching Jatavion Sanders' tape, I was like, this guy could be a future starter in the NFL for whichever team that drafts him. And he landed in a good situation in Carolina where they didn't have an established starter. And so with rookie tight ends, takes a little bit of time to adjust. It's like now we're getting to the midway point of the season. I think he's slowly starting to get more engrossed in this passing offense because he is third on the team in all major receiving categories for the Carolina Panthers. If you look at the last 3 weeks, he has averaged at least 5 targets per game. So he's getting a lot of targets in this passing offense as well. Clearly, if you look at that game against Washington, they were behind by so much that Andy Dalton probably had to air out a lot more. So I can see this Panthers offense getting a lot more passing targets in it. So it's like Deontay Johnson was dealing with the injury. So we saw a lot more targets going to the other receivers. And so, yeah, Jatavion Sanders, I think, could become a bigger piece of this passing offense. And so, yeah, we do have Adam Thielen coming back, but I still like Jatavion Sanders with his blend of size and athleticism at the tight end position could give this Panthers passing offense an extra dimension now with Thielen returning, Deontay Johnson, they got Xavier Legette. So it's like maybe they'll lean more on this passing offense now with some legitimate weapons across the board, across all parts of the field there. So yeah, Jatavion Sanders, if you need a piece at the tight end position, I think he can slowly start to return some good numbers for you because he's definitely getting the target share in that offense.
Jatavion Sanders targets over the last 3 weeks, 5, 7, 6. Pretty good for a tight end. And how about this for a throwback name? You ready for this? Let's go back to another tight end that was pretty matchup based, which I think is what you're saying with Sanders.
I think so.
But that Andy Dalton also loved to throw it to Jermaine Gresham.
Oh, Jermaine Gresham.
He could fill a Jermaine Gresham type of role with athletic. Because as soon as you said that was not an act for the podcast, by the way. As soon as you were like, oh, yeah, no, that tight end from Texas, I was like, right, that guy is, because I did exactly like what you said. I loved his athleticism. But I was like, he's going to need to refine his game a bit. But hey, if they're forcing him in early, they're doing it. So nothing we can do about it now. Interesting pick. I like it. I'm not going to say bad pick. It's an interesting pick, and God knows a tight end, you can take what you can get. My God.
Exactly. Exactly. All right, let's get to kickers and defense. What do you got for me here?
I got a defense for you, and God, it hurts to say. Yeah, the Houston Texans defense is good. Whatever. Just, yeah, freaking D'Amico Ryanson. Anyway, going back to the game that we were playing earlier, though, is guess what percentage rostered, again, in ESPN, the Houston Texans defense is?
Is it 40%?
You are very close. It's 38%.
38%. Wow, that's
shockingly
low. That's pretty low.
Shockingly low. So if you are in that 60%, 62%, that, they're available in, I say pick them up because they have forced multiple interceptions in 3 games this season. They've forced at least 3 sacks in 4 games this season, and have scored at least 9 fantasy points in their last 2 games. AKA, this defense is very good. And do you know who the Texans play next?
Is it the Colts?
The motherfucking Indianapolis Colts.
That is not a good look.
It is
for Anthony Richardson.
It really is not, because he sucks. We still don't know if Jonathan Taylor is going to be back. He hasn't practiced in 2 weeks. I know people are going to look at that Q next to his name and be like, I don't know, he may. But, dude, take it from both a Colts fan and a guy who has Jonathan Taylor on his fantasy team. The dude has not practiced once. Not even that stupid little, they practice a limited amount. And you're like, well, what the hell does that mean? Like, no.
Yeah.
None of that. Like, he has not stepped a foot on the field in the last 2 weeks. I have serious doubts if they're going to be like, all right, Jonathan, you're back. Here's the Texans.
That is true.
Highly doubt that's going to happen.
I'd
be shocked if Jonathan Taylor plays this weekend. I'm worried, man. I'm worried. We're gonna get killed. Play the Texans.
Texas defense, I think, is a good start this week here in week 8. Tad, I got a kicker for you here, and that is Will
I swear
Lutz.
to God, you say Fairburn.
Fairbairn.
Fairbairn
is probably
whatever
rostered
the
in a
hell.
lot of leagues.
Sounds like a Lord
No,
of
I'm
the
going
Rings
with
character.
Will Lutz, the kicker of the Denver Broncos. And so
I'm actually okay
Lutz has actually had a very up and down season all season long.
To be fair, so are the Denver Broncos.
That is true. But I think there's sort of a pattern as to the games that he does well, and probably the same with the Broncos as well. So in 3 games against the Steelers, the Jets, and the Chargers, Lutz has averaged 5 points per game. All very good defense.
The Jets one was in the midst of a former hurricane.
That's true. But they're all still very good defenses, right? So I think you attribute that there. But in 4 games against the Seahawks, the Buccaneers, the Raiders, and the Saints, Lutz average 14.5 points per game. So all those teams kind of have pretty mediocre or bad defenses. And so I think against those bad defenses, this Denver team tends to play better, which is obviously makes a lot of sense when you're playing against a worse defense. But heading into week 8, the Denver Broncos get to play, Tad, the Carolina Panthers.
Oh,
surrendered 40 points to the Washington Commanders. The Panthers have a bottom 5 defense, and I think they should provide a lot of ample opportunities for Bo Nix to rebound, but also for Will Lutz in case they can't get into the end zone to definitely get a lot of field goal opportunities. So yeah, if you need a streamer kicker this week, I think Will Lutz is a good option for you against a very, very susceptible Carolina Panthers defense.
Yeah, I mean, just 2 words, Carolina Panthers. But also, I'm telling you guys, like, Bo Nix is going to be good. Like, this kid looks good. I know the first 2 weeks of the season he didn't. But
sorry, Tad, let me cut you off here. So long-term optimism over the next 5 years. Do you have more optimism for Anthony Richardson or for Bo Nix?
Bo Nix.
Wow, okay, that was not even a hesitation.
Because Bo Nix is accurate.
Okay.
Shocking. Throwing a receiver 5 yards up the field doesn't work. How dare you ask me that question? God, yes, no, but I'd much rather have Bo Nix. Honestly, no. Would I have Bryce Young? Ooh, that's a good question. Bryce Young over Anthony Richardson. Damn. I'd probably still take Anthony Richardson. But no, that's what I'm still a believer in Bo Nix. I think that Bo Nix had a very rough start to the season. Those first 2 weeks were bad. But now Sean Payton seemed to have kind of like realized, like, hey, if we actually pass the ball, this offense can work. And you know me, I love my Denver. Are they in Denver?
That's a good question. I don't have that.
Okay, because anytime a kicker is in Denver, shut up. Anytime a kicker is in Denver, I just love it because that thin air definitely does carry the ball further. So that does, increase your chance of those 50 points, which is an extra 2 or 3 points, depending on your format. So
they are at home. They are playing in Denver.
They're at home. There you go. So even more reason go for it. So I like this pick. Good call, Mer.
All right, guys. So that will give a close to our waiver wire episode here in week 8. But I mean, we can't cover everything that you want us to cover in a given fantasy episode. So I mean, we cover the waiver wire stuff at the beginning of the week, and we do the starts and stuff at the end of the week. But if you need hyper personalized advice for your specific lead needs, hit us up on our social media handles. So you got us on Twitter. You got me at UmTheSide23, Tad at TadTheSide94. You got the show handle at TheDecide Guys, and of course on Instagram at TheDecide Guys as well. So if you need, like I said, personalized advice for your specific fantasy league, like if you need waiver wire help and you need starts at help and you need potential trade advice, like I mean, just anything and everything that you need help with when it comes to your league specifically, that is where you can sort of interact with us, and we will answer your questions in respects to what your needs are. Because as much as we want to cover everything in a given episode, we can't cover everything that we want to. So that is where social media comes into play there. So guys, make sure you interact with us, because that is the best way we can help you win some fantasy football titles and take home some fantasy championships, as many as we can this year. Guys, make sure you subscribe to your podcast. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you're always up to date with our videos, as well as all of our podcast episodes. And please, guys, make sure you support and promote our, make sure you support our LAFB network family, because they're giving a lot of great content when it comes to the Rams and the Chargers at the professional level, and the Bruins and the Trojans when it comes to the college football level. So lots of great content from lots of great content producers, about all 4 LA football teams. And guys, to everybody who's already supporting them, without them, guys, there would be no us. And so everybody who's already, subscribing to our podcast and watching the videos and watching our YouTube shorts. We went 3 for 4 this week as well, guys. So, I mean, if you want to make some money on Underdog Fantasy, that's the best way you can sort of make some money. Watch those YouTube shorts. Who's listening to the podcast, who's interacting with us on social media. I mean, just anything and everything that you're doing to support the podcast. We really can't thank you enough.
And speaking about some of that great content, let's talk about LA Confidential, hosted by Chauncey Talese. And Chauncey, I know you said don't give me this much credit, but you shut up. You produce awesome content with great LA football content.
A great way to treat your friends. Tell them to shut up.
Exactly. Yeah. Shut it. Shut it. Let me compliment you. Let me do you a favor here, because you produce awesome content. And if you're kind of like us, where it's like talk football, but also talk popular culture, as Amir and I were doing about 20 minutes before this episode started recording,
very true,
then LA Confidential is the place to check it out, because they talk both for hours on end and it is endlessly entertaining. Every time I go on that show, I have to set aside at least 3 hours, because I'm just like, I'm just going to talk about, whatever I want with these guys for so long, because they are so much fun to talk to. Also, check out Salute to Troy podcast, hosted by Al Rowe. USC fans, I know it's a rough season, but if you want to discuss it, if you want to vent, I understand. Trust me, I'm a Colts fan.
I'm pretty sure Al was venting his frustrations after that Maryland loss.
I'm sure he was. I'm sure he was. So if you want to vent in the YouTube chat, if you want to vent, on Twitter, if you want to hear like what the hell is going on with this team, should we fire Lincoln Riley? All those things. Yes, you should, so he can come to TCU, by the way, just saying. But all those USC conversations, I'm telling you, Al hits on a weekly basis multiple times, not just once a week. He hits it at least 3 times a week. So be sure to check him out as well. They do excellent work. So be sure to check them out. And as always, guys, thank you so much for checking us out. We're going to keep coming at you with fantasy advice and, other advice too, if you need it. So as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And please stay safe, everyone.